with you all. My name is Michelle Soik. I serve as the Associate Director for Housing Facility Operations at the University of Cincinnati. I am also the host of the I'm Done Apologizing podcast, and I'm excited for you to spend a little bit of time this afternoon reflecting on yourself, and especially for our women identified folks in the room, for some of the asks that maybe you want to make as you think about your career and your life and where you want to go. So we are going to spend a little bit. This is smaller than I thought it was on your computer. It's much bigger. So I apologize. Well, I don't apologize. I touch myself all the time doing that, friends. So I will make sure that I'm reading things so that you all can see them. But we're going to spend a little time with making the ask, and I'm going to spend a little bit of that time as this is also, I'm doing a live recording of my podcast right now. So you'll be able to listen to this in the fall again if you need a refresher on the content. And then once I go through some of the material, then we're going to do an activity. And so I hope you are excited to put your thinking cap on a little bit and to think about some things that you want to make asks for. If you came in after the worksheets were handed out, don't worry, I have some for you. So I'm happy to get those for you. And so we are going to jump right in here. So there's three things that I want to talk about when it comes to making the ask. The first one is that women are less likely to inform supervisors of what they're accomplishing in their work. We're going to dive deeper into all of these topics. The second one is that women are less likely to ask for what they're owed: money, titles, expectations, boundaries, right? Like there's a whole laundry list that you could do there. And really successful leaders, successful female leaders tend to give pretty generously of their time and their talent, but not as skilled as inviting others in to help their successes. So our first one, if you are not familiar with the book How Women Rise, I strongly recommend that you listen to it, read it, whatever your book intake is. It's one of my favorite books, I think, probably that I've read in the last 5 years, and I read a lot of books. Well, I'll put it this way, it's my favorite nonfiction book that I've read in the last 5 years. And I continue to reference it pretty regularly. And so in this book, one of the key points that the authors talk about is that women don't really brag about themselves in the way that our male counterparts will like to brag about themselves, right? It is uncomfortable for us to say, hey, I did a really great job, or hey, I really struggled through this and got to a better place, right? We are very humble. I am probably my own worst critic when it comes to this because my supervisor is great at saying, she does great things. And I'm like, oh, right? And so I was saying, like, you're right. Thank you so much for acknowledging that. And so as women, we need to try and unteach ourselves to be humble and to teach ourselves to break the habit of humility when it comes to successes, and to get uncomfortable because sometimes bragging on ourselves feels very egotistical, right? Sometimes that feels like, oh, I'm just bragging. And that's probably because we know people who spend a lot of time in that space and annoy the heck out of us, right? But when done well, we should be able to brag on ourselves and our accomplishments and our successes. So my questions for you is, when was the last time that you highlighted some excellent work that you personally could take credit for? Not for your team or the team that did the work, right? But when was the last time you could do that? And it doesn't have to be excellent work. It could be really good work that you struggled through. It could be pretty mediocre work, but it was hard to get to where you got to, right? But when was the last time that you highlighted that for your supervisor in a conversation? When was or how might you start adding some accomplishments into your meetings with the supervisor? When I first started thinking about this, I used to tell my supervisor that I was going to offer some wins. Hey, these are my wins this week, right? And so that just became part of our one-on-one. And I told him why I was doing it, and I told him because I read this book and right all these things, but it became more comfortable for me to be able to say those things aloud. I had my cheerleaders in the background. My voice shook sometimes because, again, discomfort is real. But it was one of those strategies that I came up with to say, like, hey, I did some really cool things that I want to make sure you know, that I worked really hard on, or I put a lot of thought into, or I pulled in campus partners that are challenging campus partners, to be part of those conversations. All right, so our second bullet point, women are less likely to ask for what they're owed. And certainly, this can be about titles, this can be about money, and a lot of times we also work in higher education, so sometimes there's restrictions, but what other things are you owed? What kind of things, like, is your workspace the right workspace for you and the work that you're doing? What projects should you be working on because of your skill set or because of your job description? What are your work hours? Are they flexible? Do they need to be flexible? What kinds of things in your world are you owed? Now, owed feels kind of strong, right? When I started thinking about that, I was like, oh, nobody owes me anything except for like the person who borrowed $5 from me, 10-year-old. But it's not necessarily deserved, it's not necessarily earned, but it's the same word our male counterparts are using, right? And so learning to speak some of that same language and the reciprocal work that's being done. And so, I like to talk about boundaries. I heard something recently about boundaries that I was like, you just blew my mind. Boundaries are not, boundaries are on us to define, right? They are not expectations of other humans. They're expectations of how we want others to interact with us, right? And so I used to think about boundaries in terms of like, oh, I don't want you to do X, Y, Z. No, I want to protect my peace, and therefore I am not going to go to family outings with X, Y, and Z people in presence. Right? That's protecting my peace and sharing my expectations about how I want to show up in spaces. And so, right, I'm owed peace of mind. I will say that one all day long. I don't deserve it. I don't earn it. I am owed peace of mind because life's too short to spend negative energy in all the places we spend negative energy. And so starting to think about those boundaries and being unapologetic about the boundaries that we're setting. Really hard, really difficult, but really, really important. So some of the questions to start asking yourself: how do you set your expectations at work, at home, with family? What are some of those expectations and how are you communicating them? Are you paid your worth? I'm gonna say no, we're not paid our worth, right? But should you be getting paid more? Are you getting paid the same as your male colleagues in similar positions or roles across the institution, right? Maybe not even male colleagues, but like similar roles across the institution, taking a look at some of those pieces. And then what boundaries are you needing to set? And who's going to help you uphold those boundaries? Who are your accountability buddies, right? Who's going to help you check and make sure that that is what you're doing and you're upholding? All right, so the third bullet point is that successful leaders give very generously, but we're not always skilled at inviting others in, right? So women, we are wired to offer assistance, right? Think about times, maybe even this afternoon, this morning at this conference, when you said, how can I help? Right? We just by nature are givers of our time and in our talents. It's easy to give those to folks, right? It is very easy to give those. It's uncomfortable to ask folks or to invite folks in to ask them to be part of something that maybe is very close to us, or that we're maybe not as confident in, or that maybe we have control issues around, because hello, control issues, those are real. But it's helpful when you're thinking about projects or when you need a promotion of ideas, right? You may not be in the right spaces to be able to make the asks that you need help making asks. And so how do you invite others in to do that as well? Maybe you just need help with the dishes because I can't ask for help with the dishes for some reason in my house. That is a big ask in my house. Luckily, my 10-year-old now knows how to load the dishwasher, so that ask worked. So So we're going to be doing some asking. We're going to be thinking about our asks in this session. And even as I started thinking about proposing this topic and this idea as part of the conference, I gave myself a lot of pep talks. I'm like, why would the committee want to approve something that's really personal for me, right? I'm recording a podcast episode, but something that's really important topic for us to talk about. And so making that ask, even in the form of a proposal, it's hard. Making asks are hard, they're uncomfortable, they're personal. You could say you could be told no, right? There's a lot of factors that go into it. So as you start to think about giving of your time, how often do you say, how can I help? Right? How many other times should you be asking, who can I pull in, right? Who can help me? Who's asking you that question? Who's asking you how they can help you? Are you uncomfortable asking others for help and assistance with something that feels personal? Maybe. And what do you need to help you feel more comfortable as you think about making some asks and inviting other folks in? So I have a couple of personal stories, two different topics. So I am a member of the last graduating class of the UC Women Lead program at the University of Cincinnati. Some of our state laws have now made this tenured program no longer exist on our campus in the same way that it historically has. So I want to say that because I don't want to get UC in trouble. But also, there was a cohort of women who identify as faculty and staff at the University of Cincinnati. And we would come together on a monthly basis and do some development. We'd bring in speakers, they would have some really great topics. We did some campus projects where we were trying to impact and influence change on our campus. And one of the things we did in the fall was a retreat where we got to talk a lot about ourselves, be introspective. We did vision boards. If you haven't done a vision board in a second, that's a fun thing to kind of go back to and revisit. And then we also did what was called a reciprocity marketplace. And I was like, oh, what the heck is this? What am I about to get myself into, right? But as we talked about it and it was explained a little bit more, I realized that my ask was really this passion project of my podcast. I wanted to ask for help to expand the listenership, to help be engaged with other amazing, cool women in the world, and maybe to monetize it, but that will never be my full-time. I shouldn't say never, right? But that is not the desired outcome, for it to be my full-time job. And again, very personal ask, and a lot of women had very personal asks. Some of them were about clothing, right? I basically lived in sweats and a t-shirt during the pandemic. Help me dress like a professional again, right? Someone had written a manuscript and wanted to produce a movie. Help me produce a movie, right? Like lots of really cool things. Some of them were work related. I want to get involved with grants. How do I get involved with grants? And those sorts of things. And so as we went around and talked about it, you could hear the nervousness in a group of very close women who'd been close and together for a while, making the ask, right? And our facilitator called out the nervous energy in the room, right? And pointed out that this is exactly why we need to be doing these kinds of activities more and using our voice more consistently, more boisterously, and making asks that are personal to us and important to who we are and the work that we do. So lots of really cool things there. I had an opportunity to connect with a whole host of alumni from the UC Women Lead program. Some of who are like, I had no idea, I'm a follower now, right? Which was really cool. Some of who are like, how do I get to be a guest on this podcast? I met some really influential women in Cincinnati, which had I not made that ask, I would not have gotten connected to some of those women. Attended some women's conferences because of my connections, attended a really cool fashion show that I got to take my 10-year-old to. Let's talk about a fashionista there, but and I really got the confidence to start to ask more people and invite more people into something that is very personal to me in my podcast. So as part of this is a really bad still, but yeah, this is where I got. How many people are familiar with the TikTok trends, the nice to meet you trend? Oh, hi, nice to meet you, right? Or like sharing a cup of coffee. Some head nods, not really. Okay, well, go follow me on TikTok or Instagram and you can see it. But it's a trend where it's got this song in the background, oh, hi, nice to meet you. And if you want something stuck in your head, that is the song to listen to. And it's like folks who just want to connect with others with similar interests in this social media virtual space. And they're sharing a coffee or they're sharing a Diet Coke or they're sharing whatever with the audience person who is viewing that video. And I was like, I told my sister sends me TikTok. I have like 20 TikToks to catch up on because she sent me that many so far. Sorry. And she had told me this. I said, oh, I think I want to try this TikTok. And I was like, oh, I don't really do TikToks, but I did it. And within an hour, I had 1,000 views already. And I had like 20 new followers, right? Like I just kind of put myself out there and I did it. And I was like, oh, cool. Let me put that over on Instagram and ask some folks to help me share that. I reached out to 40 different individuals who shared it on their stories, got some new followers, was introduced, my brand was introduced to other folks. Again, I am behind a screen with not in-person contact. I was shaking, I was nervous. My husband's like, what's wrong with you? And I said, just put myself out there. It was really scary, right? And so it was really cool to do, but also like really nerve-wracking because again, this is very personal to me and it's something that I really believe in. And so I share those personal stories with you because I want you to start thinking about that. What are some things that you want to start asking and thinking about asking and inviting other folks to join you in on? It can be something very personal. It can be something that is work related. It could be something that is professional. I guess those are the same. It could be family. It could be something else, right? And so as you start to think about it, we're going to start setting up our reciprocity marketplace. Now, a couple of caveats to that, in that this should take place in a setting that is more than 50 minutes in time and more than the like 30 minutes we're gonna have to do this, right? So I've tried to really kind of abbreviate this, but hopefully giving even just a sample of what this looks like, you can help maybe replicate this or do this again with a close circle of friends or in a community that you're part of. So so everybody who has a worksheet, and I'll get worksheets out to those folks who also need them, but there's a worksheet that I'd like for you to fill out. Take about 5 minutes and think about what is your ask? What do you want to ask and invite other folks to be part of? When we're done doing that, we're gonna be a little strategic in nature in how we kind of group the asks. And so we'll do, let me see, personal, professional, family, and some miscellaneous. And on the next screen, I'll kind of help set up the room a little bit. We're not going to have time to review everyone's, unfortunately. And so if you want to choose which one you want to offer assistance to, you can kind of go to that topical area, right? And so we'll just kind of use the ends of the tables here. So if you're sitting on the end of the table, just if you can move your stuff in a little bit, that would be helpful. That way folks can kind of just use the tables as the ends and then maybe the back. And then after you have written your ask, we're gonna put them strategically around the room, and then we're gonna invite folks to go around and read others' asks, and you're gonna offer assistance, right? That's the comfortable place that we're gonna be in, is offering our assistance. And so if my ask is to help spread the word about the I'm Done Apologizing podcast, how might you offer assistance? It could be that, hey, I'm connected with this group of women. I would love to get you connected with them. It could be, I'm going to start following your social media platforms. It could be, I know Kylie Kelsey, and I want to hook you up with her as a guest. If anybody knows Kylie Kelsey, I would love to get a hookup. Right, like it could be any of those things. And so as you're looking at other asks, how can you help? It could be as simple as saying, reach out to this organization in your community or this type of organization, right? You may have zero other follow-up beyond that, other than just offering ideas and suggestions. All right,